Alright guys, moving on to our next Patreon request, and this one comes from Christopher Rosa, who asked me to do a reboot, like pitch some ideas for a Witch reboot. Now, Witch is a show I really enjoy. For those who don't know what Witch was, or, you were too young, first off, go just listen to the intro to that show, and it's a fucking banger. Like, that intro alone should get you interested. Like, that intro to the show was a slapper. Like that alone should get... If you don't like the intro, then I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, the show was basically based off of an Italian comic book series, and it was very much like it was a magical girl show, and it focused on these 5 girls who could, use elemental powers to protect their world and this other realm from the force of dark. It's very Sailor Moon. It's very... You can't... but the thing is, the first season's okay. It's a slog to get through. That first season's a slog to get through. But the second season, when we get to Greg Weisman being the showrunner, the creator of Gargoyles, oh! It's so nice! It is so good! So yeah. So basically, Christopher asked me to do, pitch an idea for a reboot. Basically pitch some ideas for a reboot. And as always, if you guys would like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link in the description box below. Head on over to my Patreon, hit the 3rd tier. That'll allow you access to not only do that, but also be able to send me... not only send me requests, but also check out the other videos that are all on the tiers. So if you want to check out all stuff on all tiers, there you go. Anyway, so let's get started with the video. So basically, this story, if I was to reboot Witch, I think Witch was kind of perfect. Like, the season 1 had its ups and downs, but for the most part, I do think Witch absolutely I think it's a solid show. I think I would have just gone for a 3rd season. But if I'm doing a 3rd reboot, you see, the show really, especially in the 2nd season, because again, it's Greg Weisman, he really likes to talk about this stuff, so I think I would really play with this, is what I would like to do is something along the lines of, I would like to do something along the lines of, talk about, PTSD and the effects of it, because there are points in, and I'm using a lot of Season 2 in here, basically in this, it was very much that, in Season 2, you really get the feeling that the Guardians, the girls, are basically, they're basically child soldiers in a war that they didn't want to be part of. And on top of that, members of their family were former members of the Guardians as well. So it's kind of like generational trauma put on that. So what I think one of the things I'd like to do, but not overdo it, let me rephrase, is that one of the things I would really like to do is really kind of talk about some things that, some shows like Sailor Moon did do it for a bit, as well as Madoka Magica, obviously, and a few other magical girl shows, and Power Ranger, some forms of Power Ranger shows, is basically talk about, we were way too young and thrown into a situation to fight this war. We were robbed of a childhood to... And yes, they're teenagers, but it's the fact still applies, is that we were basically thrown into a war that we never wanted. And I think that would be kind of a big running thing behind everything. I think that's what I would like to do with it, is really kind of talk about those issues of you're a young superhero, cool and all, but what are you losing in turn? What are you going to lose in the long run? What pieces of you are going to be taken from that? I think another thing I would like to do is really play with that, because again, one of the things they could do is mask the magical realm from mankind. I think it would be kind of cool, because they did do this in other storylines apparently in the original comics, is that there were organizations on Earth that were basically trying to break the veil between that and see the magical realm. So I think I'd like to actually have there is a human villain that was almost like a Lex Luthor type character that Hei Lin defeated, and I like Hei Lin. She's probably my favorite of the Guardians. I don't have a least favorite. I I think it's Irma and Haylin who are my two favorites. Will's good, Cordelia's good, but I do think Haylin and Irma were probably my two favorites. But yeah, so I'd like to also it just gives something Haylin to do something, because she didn't really get to do a lot in the show's run. So yeah, that's what I'd like to do. That's something I would like to really play with. I think like another thing is also kind of like, what was his name? The main villain, Phobos. I think I would like to make him more of a threat. I'll give the show this, is that they don't tone down the villains. Phobos and Nerissa were fucking terrifying. Nerissa especially. But, I think, like, that whole storyline, like, I think I'd like to up the stakes. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Basically, kind of, like, up the stakes and show that like, this is another thing, I'm like, if the villains know who you are, why don't they just attack you at home? So I think I'd have, like, Phobos and Nerissa and what other villains I'd like to pick from the original series, and really just kind of showcase, like, yeah, we can come to your house and fight you, or try to kill you. So, yeah. But I don't want to make it too dark. That's the thing. I do want to have, like, more stakes to it, but I also would not want to, I also at the same time would not like, I'd really hate the idea if they tried to, like, uber dark this. Even I'm like, yeah, I don't want this to be, like, too dark a show. Like, I don't want this to be, so dark of a show that, you just can't, like, what's the point of watching it? It's the same thing of, like, why I hate when fan films try to make Power Rangers uber dark, when I'm like, I get you want to tell a story, but, like, at the same time, it's like, you don't, you're making it grimdark for the sake of grimdark. So there are times where I was like, yeah, in the Boom Studio comics, they talk about this, but they still have the levity to it. They still give it the energy of Power Rangers. So what I'm trying to say is I'm just gonna, like, I'd like to just take a lot what I've read of Boom Studios Power Rangers and apply that to a Witch reboot. Yeah, that's what it kind of, like, at the end of the day, that's what I feel like I'm trying to, like, put here in this scenario. Yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of like the general idea right there. So yeah, you guys tell me in the comments below, what would you do with a Witch reboot? Just comment below, let me know. Once again, I'd like to thank Christopher Rosa for this Patreon request, as well as continued patronage. Other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.